The war that changed the world forever. What if I told you that one gunshot, fired on a quiet summer morning, would drag the entire world into a war that killed millions? In 1914, Europe looked peaceful. Empires were powerful, cities were thriving, and no one imagined that the world was about to collapse into chaos. But in the streets of Sarajevo, a young assassin waited for his moment. When Archduke Franz Ferdinand appeared in an open car, 2 shots echoed through the city. Those 2 bullets didn't just kill a man, they ignited a chain reaction that would pull giants like Germany, France, Russia, and the United Kingdom into one of the deadliest conflicts in human history. Within weeks, the world was at war. This is the shocking story of how one assassination triggered a global catastrophe and changed the course of history forever. In the summer of 1914, Europe looked peaceful on the surface. Cities were full of life. Trains crossed borders every day, and powerful empires believed their dominance would last forever. But beneath that calm surface, tension was building like a ticking time bomb. Alliances were forming, armies were growing stronger, and rival nations were preparing for a conflict they believed would be quick and glorious. Then, on June 28, 1914, a single moment changed the course of history. In the city of Sarajevo, the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, rode through the streets with his wife. Crowds gathered to watch the royal procession, unaware that among them was a young nationalist who believed that killing the Archduke would bring freedom to his people. Shots rang out. Within seconds, the Archduke and his wife were dead. What seemed like a local assassination quickly ignited a chain reaction across Europe. The Empire of Austria-Hungary blamed Serbia and declared war. But Europe was tied together by powerful alliances. Soon, one nation after another was dragged into the conflict. Germany supported Austria-Hungary. Russia mobilized to defend Serbia. France joined Russia. And when Germany invaded Belgium to attack France, United Kingdom entered the war. Within weeks, what began as one assassination had exploded into a massive global conflict. The world had entered the First World War. Millions of young soldiers marched proudly to the battlefield, believing the war would be over in a few months. Many thought they would return home as heroes by Christmas. But they were terribly wrong. The war soon became something the world had never seen before. Across the fields of Europe, armies dug long defensive lines called trenches. Soldiers lived in these muddy ditches for months, sometimes years. The trenches were cold, wet, and filled with rats. Artillery shells exploded day and night, shaking the earth and filling the air with smoke and fear. Battles became deadly stalemates. Thousands of soldiers would charge across open land, only to face machine gun fire that cut them down within seconds. Entire villages were destroyed. Fields that once grew crops became graveyards. The war introduced terrifying new weapons. Poison gas drifted across battlefields, burning soldiers' lungs and blinding their eyes. Massive artillery cannons could destroy entire towns from miles away. And for the first time in history, armored vehicles called tanks rolled across the battlefield. Even the skies were no longer safe. Fighter planes engaged in dogfights above the trenches, turning the air into another deadly battlefield. As the war dragged on, the human cost became unimaginable. Millions of soldiers were killed, and millions more were wounded. Families across Europe waited for letters from sons and fathers who would never return. Meanwhile, the war spread far beyond Europe. Colonies in Africa and Asia were pulled into the conflict. Empires fought not only for victory, but also for power, land, and survival. By 1917, exhaustion was spreading across the nations involved. Food shortages, economic collapse, and growing anger among civilians began to shake governments. In Russia, the pressure became too great. Revolution erupted, and the Russian government collapsed, forcing the country to withdraw from the war. But in that same year, a powerful new nation entered the fight. The United States declared war on Germany, sending fresh troops and resources to support the Allies. This shift would change the balance of the conflict. By 1918, Germany and its allies were weakening. Their armies were exhausted, supplies were running out, and their people were desperate for peace. Finally, on November 11, 1918, the guns fell silent. An armistice agreement ended the fighting. After 4 long years, the war was over. But the world would never be the same again. The First World War destroyed powerful empires, including the Austro-Hungarian Empire and the Ottoman Empire. Borders were redrawn, new nations were created, and millions of lives have been lost. Historians estimate that more than 16 million people died in the conflict. Cities were left in ruins, families were shattered, and the peace that followed the war would create new tensions that would eventually lead to another even more devastating conflict, World War II. World War I was supposed to be the war that ended all wars. Instead, it became the moment that reshaped the modern world forever.